And welcome once again to Living in the 21st Century. Joining me this morning is Erica Morelli, presently a United States citizen who living abroad in Germany. Erica, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you very much. Thank you for
Okay,
having me.
thank you. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Erica.
Well, I studied in the US and I did, the basic student thing. I did my bachelor's there. I went to Indiana University and I studied with a teacher in New York, and they said that you have to come to Germany to get your career going. So I came over here and auditioned, and I got a few agents. In Germany, you have more than one agent. And just from there, things started to happen. So
Oh,
that's
beautiful,
how I'm here.
beautiful. Well, tell us a little bit about your career in Germany. How is it a little bit different from here in the U.S.? What opportunities that exist bigger in Germany than here in the U.S.?
That's a good question. Here they have more fixed positions, so you can have a salaried position with a house, and then you would do roles that you're assigned for the entire duration of your contract, so at least a year. And it's nice because you have insurance and a regular paycheck. And then if you do other performances, it's just in addition to your base salary. So that's nice. I don't think we have really fixed positions in the US other than chorus positions. I think.
Well,
I
great.
could be wrong.
I'm glad that you really touched on that because, yes, the opera is here also, but I find that it's kind of stifled, so to speak. The same intentions are given to secular music and the pop and the reggae and you name it. These
Mhm.
that is, I mean, multi-million dollar industry, the music industry is, but as specifically in those fields, I think opera don't get that same healthy financial support. And back there in Germany, it seems like that's the foundation where you can actually make a career, from, have a
Mhm.
regular salary, and you can see yourself doing things. Uh, what encouragement would you want to give to artists at this point, especially in opera? You know, it have its roots deep here in the United States, but over the years, things had varied tremendously. How would you get young people to discover the potency, both economically and as an industry, in opera?
Um, you mean like young singers or a young audience?
Young singers and audience, if you want to put it that way, I think that's a good way to put it.
Well, for young singers, I mean, the business has changed and it's getting very difficult. But I would say, especially for American singers, probably Germany and Austria are the places they are most likely to get hired because every town has an opera house. And one thing, particularly for young singers, I would say is if it's possible, I would do maybe a master's program in Germany because then you have the language down and you're in the system, and it's easier to get auditions that way. Once you're in the system, things are a lot easier. Getting into the system is a little tricky. The other thing I would say to look at is opera studios, and it's not just at the big opera houses. You can generally find an opera studio at almost any house in Germany, and I think that's not very well known in the US. And a lot of them are newer. Like the Vienna Staatsoper, they have an opera studio, and it's fairly new. I think it's 4 or 5 years old now. But especially small towns, if you don't make the big opera studios, you can definitely look at the opera houses in small towns and look at the studios because those are easier to get into. And then once you're in the system, they kind of know you and they like to hire people that they know. So if you're in the system, you're in a good place.
Okay. I don't know if you're aware of this guy named Andrea Rowe, um, who is, he's a violinist, but he has a big following. It doesn't matter where he go. Even here in the U.S., I think he was supposed to be here either this month or next month. And I think where he's going to be is already sold out. What I'm looking at here is that we have a lot of young upcoming artists, opera singers. I meet them regular, and that zest and scope that opera have in Germany and Austria, even even in Holland actually, we don't find existing there. Is it some drastic change in culture? Because I can remember when the United States was a place that opera was well embraced, so far that Procter and Gamble, who would have created the soaps, had opera singers advertise their soaps, and that's how opera had came about, because they combining both. What what would you want to say to a young person who considering giving themselves taking a career up in opera? They have this talent, they love this talent, but they go to school, take a massive student loan, then they have to worry about paying back that student loan, probably find a
Yeah.
job outside their professionalism. And what would you want to tell that person, especially if they want to grow and start their own business? How would you approach that?
Um, well, I mean, for a young person studying, I would say go wherever you're paid to go and find what's really important is really a good voice teacher starting, not a big name school. I mean, maybe for a master's or an artist diploma, go to a bigger name school, but really only go if they pay you. I don't think it's worth it to pay tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars out of pocket at this point because the business doesn't pay as well as it used to. And chances are you won't be able to really live that well if you have a ton of debt. Plus, it's not great to start out in life having a huge student loan. Like it's a lot of
Yes.
stress. And I think it would put undue pressure on you in terms of auditioning. You probably have that in the back of your mind. And so it's something to stay away from. Really, I think what you need is a very good voice teacher and go to the school that gives you money. Don't pay them.
I love I love that advice. I from year to year over the past 8 years, I would have held celebrations where I have it's like a red carpet ceremony actually. And normally what I used to do is invite some of those students from over at Berkeley University. And what amazes me is that these kids, some of them would do gigs for like almost free. I understand that they have a student loan, they're pursuing a career and they can't charge full. But more and more, what is so irritable is that you will go in the train station and you find professional students. I'm talking about professionals who sing great voices and they're playing and a little talk out there trying to collect some funds and raise some funds. And it's like mind-boggling. Why would you graduate
Yeah.
from Berkeley and then have to come to this? So I'm wondering. Now the music industry is huge. It's big, and it offers a lot of opportunities. But very few people become popular and become wealthy out of it when the vast majority who got the same appreciation for music and the same ambition and drive and talent, they just stay at standstill and they are just as qualified to be where superstars are.
Yeah.
I think there has to be some mentorship really to guide them down the right road. And I mean, you just share part of that. But how would you motivate that young person? In school is fine, that's the aspiration. But it's
Right.
after they leave school now, how do they fit themselves in the seat where they can command top dollar or top salary like yourself?
Yeah. I mean, I guess, well, really what I was talking about with the opera studios, because they do pay, it's not the best starting salary, but you do get health insurance and whatnot. That is a great way to get in. In the US, I think you have to go through the young artist programs. It's very rare that people study and then get something. I think the problem, particularly in the US, is that, well, one, there's no funding for the arts. And in Europe, the state funds everything, and you don't have to worry about fundraising. The money is always there. But we don't have that in the US. We used to have a bit more with the National Endowment for the Arts, but it's been really cut down quite a bit over the past few years. And there's not this appreciation for music that they have here. And I don't know if necessarily it comes from being taught that, because the Germans are taught in school. They're taken to operas. They go to what they call Kinderoper, which is children's opera. And we do have an opera outreach program in the US. We do have that. But it's kind of emphasized more, and they're a bit proud of it. Even if they hate opera, they still have this kind of reverence for it. And I think if we were able to maybe teach, I'm not sure if it's either if we teach children this, like in school, so we have bigger audience, so then there's more demand and people can make more money. Or the other thought I have sometimes is maybe it should be more of an elite thing, like a designer label, and maybe it's something people should want to be seen going to, so they can get, more people and more money that way. I don't know if both of those or either of those would really help, but those would be my thoughts on it. Of course, they'd have to be tried. I don't know.
Okay. Over a month ago, I interviewed a lady. She's a professor at a university in North Carolina. She's Chinese descent, and we had spoke about cultural integration of music. Do you think it's a good idea that migrating from one nation to the next, discovering other variations of music, could essentially put you in a position where you have a better opportunity at earning rather than in your own country?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I think that's great. With China especially, I feel like Asia is going to be the new place for opera. And a lot of the singers in Germany are American or Asian. They've come here for jobs. But I do know, because I've been to China many times now to perform, the president's wife used to be an opera singer. And since he's been in office, he's built more than 100 opera houses. And there's that new program that Placido started in Beijing with the Beijing Opera. That's a new opera studio. Okay. And I think there's the I Love You China competition. That's a great way to get your foot in the door. They're really appreciative of opera in China. And artists are very respected, which is not the case necessarily in the US. But yeah, I think you do have to definitely go to other countries. Even if you're based in the US, you will have to perform in other countries just to make a living, because there just aren't that many performances in the US.
So do you think then some ambitious person, maybe like yourself, say, you know what, I can really develop this or redevelop this standard of music and make something from it, really build an industry in the United States from it? Because when I watch American Idol or one of those talent shows, American Got Talent, and I mentioned this several times, you will find someone out the clear blue sky start singing opera. And it's like, it blows the roof off. Everyone embraces this thing. It sounds so refreshing and so different. And you can still see that there's a foundation for hungering and thirsting after good music and good talent. But there's no one there really to promote it the way it ought to be here in the US. I know a lot of people who sing opera, soprano, do classical, and we live with a generation that, I don't know, really don't care much about supporting that kind of art form. When in essence, I think it got its time and place in society, but unless like any other product or service, you give it the right kind of promotion, it don't take root. Do you see that from whence opera were before, that there was a depreciation of it, and you think, is it time that we bring about a new form of re-nourishment of opera and get into the young people's mind that this is something they can make a career of, but by doing that, I have to further promote it myself or start a business?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do think things are cyclical, so I'm hoping that opera makes another turnaround and it becomes more popular. There are some things that are being promoted now, and I'm curious to see how the public will react to them, like the new Magic Flute movie. Morris Robinson is in it, and he's a very well-known opera singer, and they're doing the Magic Flute. So I'm hoping things like that will create a bit more interest in the United States. It's if people are exposed, they either love opera or they just kind of learn to like it. But there is this kind of hunger because the music is so, I don't know, it's so emotional and so beautiful. People are drawn to it. It's very comforting to people. And I do think you're right. It does need to be kind of rebranded.
Yes.
But I'm not a marketer, so I'm not sure how I would do that.
I understand. I understand. I love that part when you talk about the relaxation of the music. That's something I would love us to talk about a little bit because we live in such a tempo world where people are so chaotic and rushing and busy and they get no time out to relax and refocus. And there was a time in history, even as far as Russia, where the same classical and opera, believe it or not, were used as a form of relaxing folks before they even go into surgeries. Rather than all this anesthesia, classical were the route that they use to get people in a frame of mind that they can have a successful surgery. But deeper than that, it's the fact that classical and opera has a way of speaking to the soul. And I think out of that speech comes wisdom. And the world is so busy in their regular things, trying to do 2 and 3 jobs at the same time. They don't get time out to really embrace the beauty of what this good art form has to offer. And only if modern society can get an appreciation and taste for what opera can offer, or a good soprano, good classical music, this put you in a different frame of mind. Would you want to encourage people today that take time out and smell the roses, take time out and embrace this art form? What would you want to say to those kind of people?
Well, I think it does. It's so fulfilling to go and see some great art, and when you go to the opera or to an orchestra concert or any classical music event, it's not just that you're watching something. When you're present, you feel all of the emotions from the performers coming to you, and the whole atmosphere changes. So you physically change a bit because you're picking up the emotions of the people on stage, and it's more of a sensory thing as opposed to watching it on television, which is not quite the same. It's nice that we have that, but it's definitely not the same as being live. I think I would tell people to go just to experience that and see if they can take a break from their hectic lives, as you said, and just kind of relax and revel in these emotions and then get a chance to think about things.
Yeah. Do you think opera singers and sopranos are naturally actors? I watch regularly some of these performances, like sometimes on a daily level because they work in a place where most of the times classical music, opera, and soprano serves as a brain stimulant to these people. Some of them are in the late stages of life and ready to exit the earth, and the only thing that is meaningful to them is a good classical or opera. There are times where I play opera or classical, and you see these faces start smiling. They can't speak, they can't talk because they are mentally somewhat incapacitated. just living out the last days or weeks or months or whatever the case may be. And it means something to their heart. And this is really serious. And I get that, experience it almost on a daily basis. This is reality. And that's why I am so concerned about how you can provide this kind of music as a healing source, a brain stimulant, which it does in most cases, because some of these people are paralyzed, they can't do anything. But when you see a smile, a good piece of music, and a smile come over these people's faces, you know that something good is going on in their brain. Would you encourage a business sector to embrace this art form, invest in this art form, because it's more than just singing. It touches the soul, it touches the heart. I mean, it touches every part of your being. Would you want to speak to the business society and ask them to invest? Is a good thing to invest in this talent and so forth?
Yes, definitely. It is a good thing to invest in. As you said, there is a lot of evidence that it does help people in terms of health and behavioral things. I think in the US, we're just so used to seeing it. People don't really value it. But if you actually experience it live, it's just totally different. And I feel like going from that approach would help. But I'd love it if someone would get involved and from a business aspect and help bring it back to what it used to be. Definitely. I'm not sure how that would happen though.
Okay. In your studies, do you think it's essential that as a part of your music ambitions and aspirations, that at least a minute part of that should be centered around business, that if you want to rediscover this industry and get it into the minds of this young generation, the beauty of it, do you think that business should be a part of your studies where you can be ambitiously enough to market yourself rather than just being the singer, be the boss singer, that you can start a business and do your own opera house eventually? And, encourage, as I said, businesses to invest in this, because opera ticket sells, and this sells for a good piece of money, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's a good 3 or 4 hour business that companies can invest in and get back a part of the investment in short increments. And you don't have to sing opera 1 week or then the next year or 2 years. This is something that can be done on a monthly basis where you can have the monthly opera house or the weekly opera house. I don't know. That's my imagination. But have something done on a consistently that you would be it would enable you to inspire investors to get into it, that they can say, well, this is worthwhile. Maybe I can build or rent a place and start my own opera house and put that singer that has a business aspiration behind them to spearhead the whole operation. What would you think about that?
I think that's a great idea. I have thought for a long time that the music programs need to have a business course for people, because a lot of times the students go out in the real world and they have no clue what to do. I had no clue. I learned by making a lot of mistakes, as most people do. But a business course would be great. And it is funny that you mentioned that, because I have been looking at, when I retire from singing, making my own production company and going from there. So I have been looking at those possibilities, because it would be great if people, particularly in the smaller towns in the US, could have access to something like this. And they just don't have it. And I think if they're able to see some more things, the audience will grow. But if there's nothing to see, where are we going to get an audience?
Absolutely. I believe in that 100%. And you said one true thing. The businesses in US need to be educated as to what's going on. I know of a personal friend of mine who She sings opera. She's an expert in her field right now. And her husband wouldn't give contributions to her business, but to Boston Pops, they made a lot of contributions to that. And I often ask myself the question, wait, this is your partner who is in this business, you're not helping them, but only a certain elite crew get that support and so forth. So I think what you're saying is correct. The ability to educate businesses, send them out brochures and give them some ideas what is important that they should invest in such a talent to their business. It may not have the soap operas anymore. You may have the cow operas or the bicycle operas. Operas are tied to something, but I think it's beautiful. But we are coming down to the last 2 minutes. So I want you to give your humble opinion and professional outlook on the importance of resuscitating opera in places where it's gone cold.
Well, obviously, I think it's important, but I think it helps when places are doing well. A symbol of that is if they have a good classical music scene. For example, China is doing well, so classical music is very important to them. It develops parts of the brain that other things don't in terms of languages, mathematics. So it's important to people anyway, just to learn for basic things. In the Middle East, they're doing well. Not all the countries, but a lot of the countries are doing well. And the ones that are, they import productions from Germany. They pay to bring the whole thing in to be exposed to classical music because they value it so much. And because it's kind of a status symbol when cultures are doing well. I think that for the US, it's definitely important that we need to resuscitate it because it also is good for people. Right now, people in the US are a little aggressive and angry, and opera, classical music in general, it helps to tame that and give people an outlet for their emotions so they can process them in a helpful manner instead of acting out aggressively and doing something that they'd probably regret later on.
I love that. I love that word you use, tame that. Yes, it could tame some angry souls we have around here right now.
Yeah.
Well, Erica, look, it's really been a pleasure having you on. And I hope someday again we can probably do it and have some more interested areas of opera we can talk about. And until then, you take good care of yourself and we see each other again. And for all those who have been tuning in on Living in the 21st Century, I want to say to you, have a nice day.